Hello again, this is Chirag, and in this video let's take a look into SharePoint list views in more detail. When you create a list based on a list template, SharePoint creates one or more views for you depending on the list template you selected, with at least one view as the default view. SharePoint always displays this default view when you don't instruct which view to display. You can change this from list settings page. Also, SharePoint gives you 4 view types to choose from. The first one is the standard, which is a flat view with default columns. Second one is the datasheet view, which is for the bulk edit and quick customizations. Then comes the calendar view, which displays your all the records in daily, weekly or monthly view. The fourth one is the Gantt view, which is basically a timeline view. Let's see this in action. Alright, so I have this employees list where there is only one view, all items view, which is the default view, and it's the only view I have for the employees list. If I want to create a new view, then I will click either this option, this 3-dot button, and then click create view, or I will go by the ribbon control, click the list tab, and then click this button. There is also a third way to do the same, which is list settings page. When I go here, at the bottom here I have a view section, and then I have only one view. And right now you can see that it's selected as the default view. I can also click this link to do the same thing. So let's do that. So once I click this create view, I have the view type selection page here where I have 4 options: standard, datasheet view, calendar, and Gantt view. So for now, let's just create a standard view. So I will just put something like custom view 1. Now here you can see that I have a checkbox called make this the default view. If I check this box, SharePoint will assign the default flag to this view. So whenever you provide a link to the list, SharePoint will always show the custom view. So let's do that. Below this I have this audience section where I have says create a personal view. And it says personal views are intended for your use only. That means if I select this radio button and click OK, this particular custom view will be personal. So no other users will this view. If I select public view, then not only me but every other any person will see my view. So let's create that public view. If I click OK, now you can see that I have the custom view, and it actually replaced as first because this one is the default view right now. So let me show you what I meant by default view. So I'm copying the address of this view, and let me open the notepad. So here I have a site, then I have a list employees, and then I have the view. Right? What will happen? What happens if I delete this and then only enter this URL into my address bar in the browser? So if I do that, when I hit the enter, it actually displays me the custom view 1. It doesn't display me all items because custom view 1 is the default view. Now, if I want to change that, then I have to go by list settings, or I can go by all items and then say list and modify view. So right now I'm modifying the all items view, and then select this box again to change that setting again. And now you can see that all items is again as my default view for this list. Okay. Now let's take a look into list setting for the custom view. To modify this view, I will click this button and say modify this view. Now I want to, let's say, modify into this column section and say I want to get rid of job description column. If I click OK, then you can see that job description column is gone. I also can select the ordering of each column. So in here, let's say I don't want to show first name and last name, but I want to show full name, but just after the employee. So what I need to do is uncheck these buttons, and you can see that the order of the first name is 2. So I can change the order for the full name column to 2 and then click OK. And you can see I have a full name as the second column here. Let's again modify this view. Now you see that how can we modify the column display as well as their order in the view. Here in the same settings page, I can also control the sort option. So if I want to sort by, let's say, first name or full name, so I will go by full name here and say I want to sort this in a descending order, not the ascending order. So I will do that. And when I click that, now you can see that I have my list sorted by full name in a descending order. Let's say if I want to filter my records now. So let's say I want to display every employee who are not contractors. So you can see that I have a is contractor field here, and which is yes and no field value. So if I modify this, then below sort section, I have a filter section where right now it says show all items in this view. So to filter, I'll click that and say is contractor is equal to no. If I select yes, it will only give me only the contractors records. So click yes, click OK, and now I have only the non-contractor employees in the list. With the filter, one more thing is that I can add one or like more than one filter. So remember, in a sort option, you only have the two options, two columns to sort from. But in filter, I can add more filters as well. So let's say I say any contractor. So let's see the data and see what can we do. So I have a contractor is equal to yes, and I say give me all the non-contractor employees from HR department. So let's modify that. So I already have a one filter called is contractor is equal to no, and say and department is equal to HR, and click OK. And you can see I have only one record, right? So this is another thing that you can do multiple column filtering. So I can also add another filter as well. If I need, then it says there is a show more columns, and if I do that, it adds me another option for another filter, a third filter on the same record. Okay. Now below that I have a tabular view. Let's look at a group by first. So this group by section basically says once you get your items from the view, group by them by some columns, right? So let's undo those filters so I can show you what's going on. So I'm going to remove the filters, show all items, and say group by department, and click OK. So you can see that this is how the group by view looks like. So I have this, right? So you also notice that when I hover over these items, see those checkboxes appears on each record. Let's say if I don't want to allow a user to select the item, right? Select the record. So to do that, that's actually controlled by this tabular view thing. So if I uncheck this option and click OK, now I cannot select those records here anymore. Also, this employee list view, custom view, shows 4 records, all the records, because only 4 records are there in the list. But it's not a good idea if my list has large number of records. It's not a good idea to show all the records in a single go. So what if I want to limit the number of records in a list view? I have a task list with 13 records here, and I want to limit by 5 records at a time. So I go to modify view, and then here I limit the number of record, saying show me only 5 records at a time. Click OK, and now I have a pagination. So I'm going through 5 records at a time here. Also, I can limit the number of records in a, let's say, show me only 10 records, first 10 records. So if I say 10 here, but I choose the second option, it says limit the total number of items returned to the specified amount, and I click OK, the list view will only give me first 10 record based on the view settings. So this is how you achieve pagination in the list view and also maintain the performance of your page. List view has also sort of an option for different styles. So if I modify here the same view, I'm going to remove the group by option, click none. But then here as you can see is that the style option, and this is the default style, right? So let's see what different styles actually do when you select it. So basic table, you click OK, and you got this. And you can see that now I have a add new item link here. So this is a sort of like a legacy SharePoint 2010 like a list view appearance. So if I want to modify this view again, and this time let's see what happens when I say boxed with no labels. So this is a box with no label style. Sometimes people like this sort of things. Let's say a contact list where you want to show them each of the contact in the list, like in this particular style. So that is this type of style actually helpful in those kind of scenarios. So let's see, and also I'm going to remove the totals this time. So only boxed. So here's the thing. So no labels, that means no header information will appear, only the data will appear. But in boxed one, it will show the data as well. So like employee ID, full name. So all the headings will appear in this one. And then newsletter. So this is a newsletter. This is a newsletter style for the list view. Again, modify view. Newsletter with no lines, and you can see that I have a flat view. Now, so you can see like how you can also control the style of the view, and then the data will be automatically represented, automatically rendered in that particular type of a new style. This is a shaded one, so doesn't make much difference, but at least you have the options to actually do that. Most of these styles are actually legacy styles. So with the standard flat view sort of a list view, the default view will serve most of the purpose for you. This is something like, you can see that on hover over, it actually shows me the preview of each record. You can see that sometimes you sort of like need this kind of things, and you can see that the context menu appears on the hover over drop down menu for each record. So this is these are the different styles that you can control in a list view like that. Below list view, you can see that we have a folder section here. So this is where you can also create folders in a list or library. And when you have a folders, and you can see that you have two options, show items inside the folders. What will happen is that by default SharePoint list is configured to show the folders by default. But you can also say, I don't want to show any folders, show me only the actual records without the folders. So what it will do is that it will go through each and every folder and only bring the records, not the folders. So the second option is for that purpose only. We will also talk about folders more into when we discuss document libraries later in the video series. And the last but not least, we have this mobile section where you can say enable this view for mobile access. So that means, let's say if you have 4 views, then you can select which view you want to actually allow to be able to be viewable in the mobile devices. So we looked into standard list view type. Let's look into some other view types here. For that, I'm gonna change the style back to default, so it is there. Click OK. So here is one list with I have one custom view. Now the other view types. So if I create a view, and you can see that I have a datasheet view, calendar view, and Gantt view. So datasheet view is just the a view with the a quick edit option. So I'm just gonna click DS view, and this time I'm gonna create a personal view and click OK. So you can see that as soon as I click OK, the list actually shows me a view, but it's actually quickly editable for me. So I can actually make change, and when I try to edit it, this particular icon shows me that this particular row is actually in edit mode. And once I do that, the changes gets saved into temporary space, and when I click stop, all the changes get sent back to the SharePoint server and get saved permanently. So so this view is actually helpful when a site admin wants to just quickly go to the view and make quick customizations and modifications. And also with this view, if I can also do a bulk edit. So you can see that the bulk edit is like that. You can just drag and drop and it will just work. So if I want to bring the no up to, and this is like an Excel light edit. You make changes in Excel, Office Excel application. So this is very helpful view for site admins. Now let's look at another view. So if I go here and say calendar view and Gantt view. So for calendar view, let's look at the calendar list here. So when you create a view based on this particular view type, it will look like this. And and one thing to notice is that a list must have at least date columns so that the view can work on those and display your record in this particular fashion. And you can see that here in the ribbon control, I have the calendar tab and it says month. So right now I have the month view, but I can also go by week and then day. And for each option, if I hover over the cell, I can see the add button. And if I click that, this is a quickly adding a new event to the calendar. Same thing happens with the task list. So if I go here, I have this sample task list created. You can see the task, there are few tasks here, and I have this calendar view here. So if I click this calendar view, I have this calendar view of my task list records. But the difference is that this is not the calendar. So if I hover over, I don't see any add record. To add the new task in this particular view, I need to go to the ribbon and then choose new item and task to add the task. So see how the view behaves differently. Even the underlying list template is different. So if I go by task list, and this is the last option, so you can see that I have the calendar view, and when I create a task list, a new task list, and start adding record, I have already a one view default provided by SharePoint automatically created for me, and that's the Gantt chart. If I click that, it gives me this view, and this is much more like, you can see the Office project application. And so I have the quick task, and I have also this fancy Gantt chart here. Based on the timeline, it actually shows me nice view. This is not a fully sort of a full-featured chart as it appears in Office project application, but similar to that with basic functionality. And I can make changes to this and make modifications to it just like that. Task 1 important, and as soon as I click enter, it gets saved. So if I go back to all tasks, my changes are actually there. So let's say if I want to show records saying show me all the tasks that are assigned to me. So if Ross Taylor user logs into the site, he only wants to see his record. If Ben Sparks logs into the site and he wants to see only his task, what will happen? So to do that, here is one view is created called my task. So when I click my task, it doesn't show me any record because I logged in right now as Chirag Patel, right? So if I go to the same list with another user and click my task, I will see only my records. So this way I can filter. So the way it works is that if I go to the my task view, and if I modify this view as right, I'll see that it says assigned to is equal to me. So this is a keyword, and it instructs SharePoint that replace this keyword when filtering the record with the currently logged in user. So this is pretty interesting feature and useful token to be used in a filter. Another token, and you can see that there is an explanation here, and another token is the today. That means, let's say I want to say show me all calendar items for today, right? So let's also see that example in real action. So if I go to calendar, I have this thing. So if I go here and say create a view, and I go by just all events, a flat view, and say today, just like today, public view, and here in the filter I say show and say start time is equal to today. So I'll get 2 records here, right? So this is how you filter based on date and based on currently logged in users. SharePoint 2016 has also another feature in list views. So let's say if I have this list with all these records, and I make some modification to the list. Let's say show me all the marketing employees, and I click save. And let's say if I think that this is a pretty useful filter and I frequently need that. So you can see that as soon as I filter the record here, I see a new link here called save this view. And when I click that, I can say like quickly create a view just based on the current filter I have set up in my list view. And also says make it a public so that everyone can see it. I will also do the keep it personal and then click save. And suddenly I have a marketing list view here. And this is a DS view. This is a marketing view. And both these views are personal view. So if I log in as another user, so here I have a Ross Taylor user logged in. If I go to employees list, you can see that I only have the 2 views and both the views are public, right? The other 2 views doesn't appear here because these views are created by another user, not Ross Taylor. One more difference is when I log in as Ross Taylor here, I don't see that, the button, and I don't see any option where it says create view or modified view. Instead, all these buttons are disabled. The reason is because the Ross Taylor user don't have enough permission to modify any list view or create any list view. The Ross Taylor user right now has only read-only permission to the list data. So that's why we don't see those options here. So if I go to as Chirag Patel user, I see this button and says modify view, create view. So in order to be able to do the same thing like edit this list view for Ross Taylor user, I need to give the Ross Taylor user, the site admin needs to give the Ross Taylor user enough permission on the list. And also the ribbon here at the top of each list displays options based on what list I have selected and what options I have. So for example, if I just gonna reset the page. If I go to employees here, I can see that items here and list here. So if I select a record here, if I go item, you can see that these options are enabled. But if I unselect them, the options disappear based on what I am selecting here. So if I'm actually doing this, then you can see that only delete item appears, but the other things are not there because multiple records are actually selected here. Same thing applies at the list view level as well. So if I go to calendar, you can see that here it says events and calendar. So even tab also reflects based on what list items I am in. Now the last feature I want to show you in this video is the list view web parts, the app parts. So we saw that we created a different list and add data into it. We have a department, we have also the states, list here, we have employees list here. What if I want to add this little list views as a widget on some page? So let's say I have a home page, and I go to page, edit here. Now one important thing here is that this is just a simple quick editable type of page. So in SharePoint there are also other types of page types are there. So we will discuss that in a later videos in this series, but for now, when I edit it, I can see that I have this 3 section, and I can select any section and add widgets to it, app parts to it. So I click here, I go to insert tab, and I say app part. For a web part, we will discuss the difference between these two, but for now I'm just clicking app part, and you can see that I have all the list here. Okay, and then I'm selecting employees for now. Then I add, and you can see that add part to rich content. So this is the zone on the page where I want to actually add that. So as soon as I click add, it's gonna add that list view here. Because the list has more column, that's why it's actually sort of taking the space more. I can also drag this here in this particular zone, just like that, or at the top here under this particular section, just like that. Also I can remove the spacing and things like that to make it look better. And then once I'm convinced that okay, everything looks good, I click save, and my page gets saved. And you can see that I have the app part for the employee list on my page. So this concludes our video. Thanks for listening. Bye.